Hey little queen, so before we get into this recap, I'm going to insert a few pictures here because I'm pretty sure you should know by now because it's basically Thursday right now. It's kind of like midnight. So I'm going to try to film this real quick and stuff like this because I got to do some homework and study. But Rami Malek won his Emmy and I was so excited because we all know he got snubbed at the Golden Globes and everything like this. At least Christian Slater won something to represent Mr. Robot. Mr. Robot didn't win its Emmy this season either way, but Rami Malek won his Emmy. And I don't know, I was so happy. If you saw when he won, when they put the camera on him, it was just he wasn't expecting that win. And when they announced his name, he was just like, wow. And then he did kind of say, "Are you seeing this too, friend?" and stuff like this. So he was very much he was really into it. And aside from that, I did get sent one of these little webcam covers from Mr. Robot in the mail, and it was just a little thing here, and you put it over your webcam and it slides to have it open or close and stuff. But yeah, Mr. Robot won an Emmy, like they say, through Rami Malek, and that was just, it was pretty cool. So I'm gonna insert a few pictures here of all that, and also some of the cast of the pictures that I have of them, kind of dressed up and everything like this. Of course, it'll include our little queens from Mr. Robot: Portia, Stephanie, and Carly, Darlene, Joanna, and Angela. So yeah, so those will be in right before this little recap, so let me just put in those pictures right now. So now that you saw those pictures and everything like this, let's get into the finale. Of course, this is part 2 of the finale. We had a part 2 premiere, we have a part 2 finale. Will this go on as the season progress and everything like this? I don't know. But if we do remember, Sam Esmail did say there's only supposed to be 5 seasons, I believe. That's what it was locked down for. Of course, we don't know if things have changed. If he's like, oh, maybe we'll add another season, maybe we won't. Who knows what Sam Esmail is thinking, like they say. But aside from Rami's Emmy, I do have some stuff linked down below. And also, don't forget that Season 3 is coming in 2017. It was renewed, I think, I mentioned it in one of the recaps. I want to say probably episode 4 or 5. I don't know is when it mentioned, but this is episode 2.9, Python Part 2. So, we do see Tyrell and the mention of stage 2. We see the bank with that lady when she was like, hey, I paid all my payments and stuff like this. And we see Price when he had this meeting and the immunity and the shooting. And then we see Dom and everything like this at that hospital and the divorce. And we see a sonogram, we see the planning with Tyrell, Mr. Robot, and that SUV and stuff. So again, this is all little things that, or basically Easter eggs that led up to this. So any little thing that are going to lead to bigger events in this season itself. And then obviously, just like how we have stuff from Season 1 pop up in Season 2, we're probably going to see things from Season 2 pop up in Season 3, and so on and so forth, because, this is all just one big web, as we figured out at the end of this season, and I was kind of spot on that from the very beginning. But aside from that, I guess Elliot truly doesn't have a grasp on reality, but we'll get more into that later on with anything. But starting off, we see the SUV, and we have Tyrell and Mr. Robot in there, and Tyrell's kind of mentioning how they might just want the same thing, but then in reality, we don't really know who is talking to who, because, Elliot and Mr. Robot are the same person, but Elliot is always having this, disconnect in his mind, or even though he is talking to Tyrell, it's kind of since Mr. Robot took over his mind, it's just it's going over his head. And Elliot tries to leave and stuff like this, and then Tyrell kind of threatens him, oh, your dirty little secret and everything like this, and he's just that wouldn't do anyone good, if you're being petty and stuff. Tyrell is kind of drop it. And then Tyrell kind of goes after him once Elliot tries to leave. And Tyrell's kind of telling him, there's a reason we met and that there was something between them. And, there's just kind of, I guess, Vera says, it's just it's in the stars, it's the galaxy's way or the universe and stuff like this. And then Elliot tells him, you're only looking at what's in front of you and not above you. And that to me was kind of because we do have the mention of God and everything like this and his church group and everything that Elliot was going to. So, it's kind of thinking because, gods have been mentioned kind of throughout the season, I suppose. Not so much the first season. I don't really remember clear-cut references to God or anything like this, supernatural, etc. And then Tyrell doesn't truly understand that, kind of like us. And he says, you know what, like, help me understand, Elliot. Like, I don't get it, you know, because like they have this thing going on. They're in kind of cahoots, like they say, but Elliot just can't remember. Elliot doesn't know every little thing. Someone always asks, like, you really don't remember this, and we saw that in the beginning of the season with Ray and everything. Like, he's like, you don't remember us like talking in our meetings and stuff, and you know, Elliot's just always having like this short-term memory loss, so to speak, like that little fish of his. But then Elliot is just basically just, you know, whatever, just standing there as always. And Tyrell tells him, like, you know, so much depends upon, like, the wheelbarrow and everything like this. And that is basically a saying that his father had, because that was the only thing Tyrell's father knew in English and stuff. And you do remember, like, Joanna and Tyrell, I mean, in real life, too, but also, I guess, in the series, are kind of, like, from somewhere else. Stephanie Cornelius, who plays Joanna, is from Denmark, I believe, or something like that. And I forget where Martin Wallstrom, who plays Tyrell, is. I want to say the same place, but I'm pretty sure not. And Tyrell says that not only is that a reminder of him and stuff, but that's also a reminder of someone he doesn't want to become. So whatever that means to Tyrell, I mean, we may find out eventually and stuff like this. But then we go into the clouds. But going back to that real wheelbarrow reference, I do have a link for that down below. That is like Elliot's journal. It's been on pre-sale or something like this for... It's been for pre-sale for a while. But I'll have that link down below along with a bunch of other links. But we see Tyrell and Elliot, and they enter this building and stuff, and this Asian guy kind of helps them. They're in an elevator, and Elliot kind of says, like, you know, the Dark Army is behind whatever this is. And we kind of figured that out, because, you know, we have the Dark Army, we have White Rose, we have the FBI, we have Price, we have Angela, and then we have Darlene and stuff, and Cisco. So, you know, the Dark Army was already a part of F Society, and I guess as we progress in these seasons, we're just seeing how everyone played a little part into everything, how everyone was truly involved, how the events led to what they did, and possibly the cleanup that's happening, whether it is, you know, planned or not, or, you know, out of randomness. But then again, is anything random in this series? Probably not. But, you know, Elliot kind of questions, like, his eyes and his ears aside from everything else, saying, you know, like, maybe this isn't the real world, but, like, his mind just taking a guess and trying to put everything together in some way that it is. So, you know, not only is control an illusion, but maybe Elliot's, like, reality and stuff like this, because Elliot has that disconnect again with the real world. So we really don't know what's real and what isn't with Elliot. And Tyrell does say that the Dark Army set up, like, their discreet location for them to do whatever they have to do. And then Elliot is kind of like, you know, like, when, like, what are you talking about? And again, Tyrell's like, you really don't remember, like, anything. So Elliot truly doesn't remember. And then he's like, you know what, maybe, like, Mr. Robot was, like, who he was talking to, like, when he tries to piece it together. And then Tyrell asks him, like, you know, like, I need to know if, like, you can handle all this, because, like, I can't have you, like, not all here and stuff like this. And then Elliot mentions Joanna, and that how Joanna has been looking for him and stuff. But Tyrell is like, you know what, you have to do what's necessary in life. So Tyrell can kind of care less about Joanna, I guess, like, looking for him, because they have the red wheelbarrow thing going on and all this stuff. So what is it truly to them that they have to look for in the sense of Joanna? And then they talk about, like, the UPSs for the power surge and stuff like this, because if you do remember, like, they kind of had, like, mini blackouts and stuff like this, and, you know, if something got in the way of that, or their plan, whatever they want to do, then that could make everything go down. But aside from that, we do see Darlene, and she's with her bloody jacket, and she's pleading the fifth and stuff, and Dom is trying to interview her, and she's like, you know, like, sorry for your loss and everything. And again, Darlene is just like, oh, like, I use the Fifth Amendment and everything like this. And then the guy that's there with Dom kind of mentions the Patriot Act and how she's basically an enemy combatant and stuff, and she has no rights in the situation due to the 5'9" hack and kind of the global crisis that it's set up and stuff like that. So we then go into how Darlene is just like, you know what, like, I went to go eat with my boyfriend and stuff, and he gets shot, so what else do you want? And Dom and Darlene are kind of just like, I guess they kind of recognize a little bit within each other. Of course, they're kind of the same person based on what we saw from Dom's character, and obviously how Darlene kind of grew up, so to speak, and what she was saying about herself. You know, I think it was a couple episodes ago where she mentioned about, like, that old lady who took her away. Something like that. Again, that's when Dom is like, you know what, like, we're not different and stuff. And she's like, I know it's going to be hard, but eventually we're going to become friends. And she kind of did say the same thing to Angela. She's like, we're going to be friends. Like, I can protect you, etc., etc. Will she get into protecting her? I don't know, but, you know, it's going to lead into somewhat of the same thing. But we do see Joanna at the Knowles house, the Knowles residence. Like they said, it's not the first time she's been, obviously, so to speak. But she mentions how out of all the gifts she got, this one got her the wettest. And I was like, okay. But she just walks in, she looks at a picture of Sharon and stuff like this, and she's kind of like, with all the phone calls and the gifts and everything, she's like, why? Because we all expected this was from Tyrell, even me, you know, we're like, Tyrell sending her stuff, Tyrell this, Tyrell that. Probably still could have been, you know, somehow, like if they manipulated the Knowles people, like they say, in some way underwater or something, through Dark Army, through people at Evil Corp. Like if this was all just a plan. But, I mean, who knows? But we do see how he kind of tells Joanna and stuff like this, her reasons, after she kind of asks, you feel all high and mighty. And again, that's kind of like a goddish reference, because, you know, it's like, do you feel high and mighty? Like, are you a god now? And stuff like this. And then she's like, do you think you're powerful? And then he goes out to say, like, oh, you know, like, I'm the CTO of, like, you know, like, the biggest whatever and stuff. But she's like, I'm not interested in your job title. Like, you know, she's like, she's like, do you feel powerful? Like, does this make you feel some type of way, so to speak? And then she kind of says, like, you know, like, why would you risk everything to basically drive me crazy and stuff? Like, what does it all matter? Like, what was the point of it, I guess she's trying to say. And then they kind of, like, you know, bring upon the CTO and the event that Price held for Sharon and he. And, you know, he does mention about a doctor's visit and that how Sharon found out she was pregnant and stuff like this. And he didn't know, like, whether either of them were happy or sad. But with the pregnancy and everything like this, you know, he was like, oh, you know, like, it was going to be, like, the happiest day of my life, etc. But then he's like, I still don't know, you know, after seeing that sonogram and everything like this, and after the funeral for Sharon, he's like, I truly don't know how he could lose everything all at once. You know, like, life is a roller coaster, so to speak. So it's like, oh, here, then everything just came crashing down. Like, he's like, I just lost everything. He's like, I lost a wife, I lost my baby, and I guess in some way, like, his job, because, you know, like, Evil Corp is like, it's like in the gutter, so to speak, with everything that happened with that 5-9 hack. And then he tells Joanna, basically the whole reason for that is that he wanted Joanna to feel exactly what he did and kind of just crush her hope and everything like this. And then he's like, I'm sorry. And he's like kind of like having his little moment. And then Joanna's kind of looking at him, and it looks like Joanna's a little bit sad, but, you know, knowing Joanna, that bitch is going to just, like, flip on you. Like, she's scary. She's a scary woman. She's a dangerous woman. And then she's like, you pussy. She's like, you piece of shit and everything. She's like, I hope you rot like your wife, and that the baby was, you know, basically lucky to be dead and everything like this. And he starts choking her while she tries to finish this off and everything like this. And he's, like, punching her. And she's like, it looked like she could have been close to death, because he, like, really, like, punched the crap out of Joanna and everything like this. And he's like, no. He's like, oh my god, like, what did I do and stuff? And then we hear a dial tone, and he's basically calling 911. So Joanna could have been killed here, and I thought, like, I wonder if she's gonna send Mr. Sutherland, Jeremy home, towards his place later on, like, you know, like, drug and then shoot him or something like this. Because, you know, she did go to him for the first time looking for Tyrell's money. She needed the money for the baby, but he was like, oh, like, that baby deserves to get what it gets and stuff. So he probably said that and did that leading up to this. Like, you know, he just wanted to crush her and, like, try to make her go even more crazy than she already is, and just be like, oh, you know, like, I'll just keep messing with her till she's, like, too weak or whatever. But by saying that, Joanna also did bring up how his wife was gonna, like, you know, screw Tyrell, and, like, she was pregnant and stuff like this, and she's like, that's why, you know, she's like, your child was lucky to be dead, because your wife was a hoe, basically. And then we see Darlene back, you know, in that little office, and they're talking about her friend that they dropped off at the hospital. And they're like, oh, you know, like, he's going to recover and everything, but he's going to be in prison for a long time, Dom tells her. But we do see that, you know, it's more or less an act of domestic terrorism, what they did at DC when they dropped, like, the bull balls and everything like this and stuff. And then they were saying, like, how, oh, like, Darlene was, like, the leader and stuff like this, and Darlene is like, I'm no leader. And, you know, we kind of had that, like, little revelation in an episode where she's like, oh, like, I'm nothing, you know, like, Elliot is, like, everything. Like, Elliot's the leader, like, I don't compare and stuff like this. And then Dom was saying, like, like that little bowl thing was, like, kind of funny and stuff like this. But then she's like, there's kind of, like, a bunch of holes in your stories, like, a lot of things don't add up, there's parts missing, etc., etc. And then she's like, you know what, like, I just want to know why. And then she's like, Darlene is kind of just there. Like, Darlene doesn't really care. She's kind of like that bratty kid just sitting there, like, kind of throughout the whole thing, especially from the beginning. She's kind of, I don't want to be here, so to speak. And then they talk about, like, how, you get taken advantage and you act like, you care. And Dom is kind of just like, because Darlene is just going in on her in that sense. And then she's like, that's it. Like, like, it's just all an act. Like, you just act like you care. And then she's like, you know what, you're not going to get anything out of me. And then she's like, you can try to get back later, but she's like, you can get me a lawyer and stuff. She's like, someone's dead, like they say, and she's like, if you want more details and such, she's like, you can just go suck a dick, because I'm not talking. And that's kind of been Darlene's plan since the very beginning. She's like, I'm not going to talk and stuff, like, like, she's like, they have nothing on me and everything like this. And then Dom kind of laughs, and she's like, you know what, just, like, wait here and stuff. And she brings her back the F Society mask. And then she mentions the movie, which I do think I linked down below, the Massacre of the Bourgeoisie and stuff like this. And then she's like, all these things were found at Cisco's, etc., etc. And then they have that camera, and then she's like, you know what? She's like, there's DNA on this camera, and this camera was used for those F Society videos. She's like, tell me, how is that gonna look? And then she's like, oh, like, one person is dead, that's all I know again. And then she's like, Cisco and I filmed some freaky shit and stuff. She's like, is that a matter of national security? And then we kind of bring up the guy from the first season whose gun she stole. And then she tells Darlene, like, like, we kind of stole his gun, but, you're kind of smart enough to, like, wipe your fingerprints or whatever. And that is the guy from that one skyscraper scene and stuff. And then she's like, like, sure you won't talk? Basically, like, I guess they have that little stare down, so to speak, because, she's like, dang it, because, like, she stole that gun. The gun was obviously used for something. And it seems like Dom knows a little bit more than Darlene thought. Darlene probably thought, like, oh, we kind of executed this well, like, even though Cisco's dead and this and that, like, she's like, somehow she's like, they won't figure me out, like, they won't know, and I'm okay, but, Darlene may be a little too overconfident, like they say. But then we see Elliot and Tyrell, they're with these blueprints and stuff, and he kind of mentions how the Dark Army, Mr. Robot, Tyrell, and Rose are kind of, like, in cahoots together, but he doesn't really know it and stuff, and he doesn't understand the full, like, picture, because, he didn't know what Stage 2 was, but Stage 2 was his plan, and Darlene kind of found that out, and stuff like this. And then he kind of says, like, you know what, this is Mount Olympus, Tyrell says, and again, that's, like, kind of referencing gods and stuff. And then, they're kind of saying, like, not sure of this, and who would I be asking if I did? Elliot just kind of thinking. And we go to just looking out the window to see the Evil Corp trucks that we saw at the end, or, like, the preview for this episode last week, and stuff like this. And then they talk about all the paper documents are coming here. That's going to try to rebuild their database and stuff. But then, when the malware goes in, which Elliot questions again, and stuff, he's like, you know what, like, you did this better and stuff. And he mentions how they're going to basically light up this Evil Corp place with all those documents in there, and it's going to level the building and stuff like this. And then Tyrell says, like, when you hack, like, you made basically all this possible for the whole Stage 2 kind of plan. And he's like, that conference call, was like a little nice distraction and stuff. And he's like, but this is, like, all of us and stuff. And those paper documents are kind of what they deleted digitally, but those paper documents are all the records that they had left. And if you do remember when they took down Steel Mountain, they took down, like, the tapes and stuff like this in China and at Steel Mountain. So, they got rid of everything to kind of, like, start the hack initially and kind of like a shock to the whole world. But these paper documents are, like, the only last things that Evil Corp has to get the world running again, in the sense of, like, everyone's debt will be back and, like, I guess on record and stuff. And, like, that lady who made her house payments in that one episode, like, oh, they're like, oh, you did pay off your house, like, we can finally confirm it. But again, if they get rid of that, there's really going to be no more record at all. So what can they do if they do this? But then we see someone punch a Tom Cruise poster, which was so stupid. I was like, Tom Cruise. And it's Joanna, and, like, her new guy and stuff. And then she's like, are you done and stuff? Like, are you serious about punishing, like, Mr. Knowles? And then she's like, I want you to do one thing. And then she says, do you remember that night when we met at that evil court party? And stuff like this. And, you know, you saw Scott. And, you know, he kind of looked a little bit questionable and stuff. And you're kind of like about to ask and everything. But you just left without a word. And he's kind of like, no. Because Joanna, again, she's kind of manipulative in the sense of, like, she knows exactly what she wants people to say and want them to do. And she, I mean, obviously she'll kill someone to get money back. But, you know, I was like, there's something up her sleeve here aside from the very obvious. But then she's like, yes, you do. And stuff. And then he's like, no, like, the cops are questioning everyone. Like, I left, like, after I cleaned up my station because, you know, he was a bartender. And then she's like, I thought you were serious about everything and stuff. She's like, look at my face. And everything like this, like, you know, like, are you, like, do you love me, I guess is kind of what she's saying. Because, you know, he kind of likes her a lot and stuff. And we saw that with the party and everything. He's like, oh, like, if you don't come to my party, like, it's over. But Joanna was like, no, like, you can't leave me and stuff. So, again, it's hard to say if she's really playing him or if she does have a thing for him. But knowing Joanna, I mean, she may just kill him. And then she says, like, you know, like, you're going to say, like, you're only now confessing because you're scared and intimidated by him. Everything like this. And, like, with Tyrell gone, like, you know, you didn't think much of it, but your conscience got the better of you and stuff like this. And then she's like, you know what, just thank you for protecting me. I mean, he didn't really, but, you know, overall. And then she's like, you know what, let's go over it again. So basically, she is giving him a storyline to say. She's manipulating him to be like, you're going to go to the cops and you're going to say this, and that's that. That's why I say Joanna is very, like, she knows what she wants him to say. She's very manipulative in that sense, but she's trying to protect herself and obviously her baby. She's kind of like talking with her boss, so to speak. And then she's like, you know what, like, we've already lost so many leads and the Dark Army is, you know, basically cleaning house and stuff. And then she's like, these are all kind of telltale signs that something is going to go down. So Dom is kind of like piecing it all together in herself, obviously. But I mean, it's kind of the obvious, but, you know, she's like the one that's kind of persistent on, like, something's going to happen and we have Darlene here. Like, you know, we need to figure this out, like they say. And she mentions, like, you know what, I want to do this interview alone. I know her, and she's like, I am her. She's like, you know what, let me do this. And again, she did mention this at the hospital. She's like, promise me you'll let me do the interview. And she goes back into that room with Darlene and stuff, and then she's like, you know what, we have 6,000 plus agents working on this case and everything like this. She's like, it's one of the hardest cases ever. She's like, it'll probably be one of the hardest cases I'll ever work on my whole time here with FBI, like they say. And then she's like, no matter, you know, basically what's written and stuff like this, she's like, this is part of, like, the biggest event in world history. You know, like, the press can write what they want, they can say what they want, but she's like, you and I, she's like, we're a part of history. She's like, for better, for worse, you know, like they say. And she says, neither of us, you know, she's like, are special, Darlene is saying, because Darlene's kind of, like, on this, like, kind of kick. She's like, oh, like, I really don't matter, I'm not a leader, I'm not this, I'm not Elliot, and stuff like this. But then she's like, you know what, if you're open to change, she's like, I'll show you something. And then they walk to this room and stuff like this. And she's telling her, you're a lot more special than you are. As they walk to that room, she's kind of just like looking around at the FBI people, and there's like a little like flickering of the lights and stuff like this. And then she basically shows her basically the title track, so to speak, of this episode. And she mentions up the python and how it's a patient predator and stuff like this. But there is also that like spiderweb map, like I was saying in my first season recaps and stuff, how I said, I feel like everything's going to lead back to Elliot, because, you know, like I said, since Elliot is Mr. Robot, and Mr. Robot goes off on his own tangent, like talking to people, making plans and stuff, it's all going to lead back to Elliot somehow. And again, it basically does. And then she's like, you know what, like, the Dark Army was involved with Romero. That was a hypothesis or whatever thought that you guys had, and that kind of scared y'all. And then she's like, but that was just a freak accident with, like, you know, the neighbor's stray bullet. Like, Romero wasn't executed by the Dark Army. And we do remember Jack Black, when he found Romero, he kind of thought, like, oh shit, like, you know, like, something's going down, like, we're next, Malala, like, let's get out of here and stuff like this. And Darlene was like, oh, like, you know, like, they got Romero, like, they're probably gonna come after us too. And, you know, she was scurrying around, and she was telling Elliot, like, oh, like, the Dark Army's cleaning house and stuff. So, you know, she's like, this really scared y'all for some reason. She's like, but little did y'all know, like, that was just, like, nothing to do with whatever you guys were doing and stuff. And then you go to Elliot and Tyrell, you know, they're back at that building. And then Mr. Robot is always here. And Elliot's like, why? Like, why is Mr. Robot always here? And he's like, all this torment, like, what's it all for and stuff. And then, like, what is his plan with the Dark Army, you know, because Elliot, like, doesn't remember anything. So Elliot does these things as Mr. Robot, but he doesn't remember. So again, that's why I say with that web leading back to him, I said he probably somehow met with everyone, told specifically, like, some people and some people not, like, what to do, maybe. So, you know, this is, again, all going to lead back to Elliot like it did with the FBI piecing it all together, but I feel there's going to be a lot more, and obviously, as the seasons progress, if there's up to season 5, who knows if it comes full circle or something like this, because this is just kind of crazy, like they say. And Mr. Robot kind of tells him, like, you know, like, when did you make this plan and stuff again? And he's like, you know, this is, like, the night of the hack and everything, and, like, we're the same, and he's like, so White Rose, like, you know, like, White Rose got us out of prison and stuff, and he's like, you know, like, you told Darlene, like, we had to go all the way, and all this stuff, and he's like, you know, like, you're only meant to know what you can handle, Elliot, and stuff, and he's like, wait, are you, like, distracting me and stuff, and he goes to Tyrell, he's like, what are you doing and stuff like this, and he's like, oh, you know, like, I'm hacking, like, the company and stuff, he's like, you look at that computer alone, because Elliot, like, gets on it and stuff like this, and then he's like, don't, like, do anything stupid, basically, Tyrell kind of tells him, and stuff like this, and Tyrell kind of points a gun at him, and it kind of reminded me of, like, you know, the F Society arcade scene where Elliot kind of had the gun, and we all assume that he shot Tyrell, but, I mean, seems as if Tyrell isn't dead, and I'm kind of thinking, like, either Tyrell is alive, or Elliot just shot himself, you know, or something crazy happened, because you never know with this series, and stuff like this. And then, Elliot wanted to shut all this down and stuff, but, you know, the gun is pointed at him and everything like this, but Tyrell was always saying, like, you know, like, we were supposed to be gods and everything like this, and he was getting all emotional, and Elliot was just thinking, like, you know, this is all just, like, a mind trick, like, you know, I'm the only one that's alive here, like, no one is, and Tyrell kept saying, you know what, I'm gonna shoot you and stuff like this, and he's like, no. He's like, this isn't real, and I kind of laughed, because I was assuming Elliot was like, you're not real, and stuff like this, and Tyrell would be like, what the hell, like, one, he doesn't remember anything, like, of the plans and such, but then two, like, for him to be like, you're not real and stuff, and Tyrell would be like, you know, like, the Dark Army, like, helped me get out, like, I was hiding in plain sight, so to speak, and, like, we're doing this, and now, like, I guess for him to chicken out, like, obviously, it's not good for this. And Joanna says, you know what, he shoots Elliot, that was real. All this kind of reminds me of Lady Gaga's new song, Perfect Illusion. Some of the lyrics that she does mention amphetamine, like, her eyes are open and stuff like this, and I was like, okay, this is kind of like Elliot, you know, like, it describes Elliot, because also the lyrics are like, it wasn't love, and you were a perfect illusion, and stuff like this, and it seems like Tyrell really does have a thing for Elliot, and stuff like this, so that's why I say, like, the lyrics in that song kind of remind me of, like, I guess, Tyrelliot, you know, like, their relationship, so to speak, and just so much more, like, if you really look into the lyrics, kind of compare it to them, and, you know, kind of the whole picture. Now, control is an illusion and everything like this, like, you know, it's just kind of makes sense, so to speak. And then Tyrell mentions how Elliot had said, you know, you said to stop anyone that was in the way and stuff like this, and he didn't understand that yet, but then he's like, you know what, this is it. He was like, this is what you meant, like, you basically meant to stop yourself. And Mr. Robot kind of, like, flickers, like, a digital, like, flicker and stuff. And he kind of, like, you know what, like, he's like, this is it, you know, like, sorry, kiddo, like, this is, like, concluding us. So, I don't know, this is, like, to shock Mr. Robot out of him or something like this, or kill Mr. Robot. And, you know, Elliot would stay alive, but somehow I guess that was a plan of Elliot's all along, to kind of get himself shocked, because he would forget. Or when Mr. Robot was talking, he's like, you know what, like, we're going to do this, I'm going to freak out, and you're going to shoot me. Who knows how this all, like, really happened. But then we go to that guy on the TV and stuff like this, and he's like, you know, like, we try to bring you the truth and everything like this, and then there's, like, a phone vibrating, and Angela gets on the phone, and then she's like, oh, she's like, this is a secure line, like, Tyrell, is this you? And stuff like this, and then she's like, are you with Elliot? She's like, I'm gonna be on my way, and stuff like this, and, like, I have to be the first person he sees when he wakes up and stuff. And then she's like, you know what, this is the part where I was like, okay, like, Tyrell obviously was very emotional before he shot Elliot for a reason and stuff, because he was like, you know what, like, I love him and stuff, like, I didn't want to shoot him, because Tyrell was saying, like, he's like, I don't want to shoot you, Elliot, like, you know, like, I like you and stuff like this, and Angela's like, I do too, but, you know, Angela kind of has, like, this, like, it doesn't sound meaningful, I guess would be the word for it, and then we see, like, an eye in the window, and then we kind of hear, like, a car squeal as she walks out, and stuff like this, and then we go to Esmail Corp. But with that, I was thinking that, you know, Angela seems to somehow, I don't know, maybe it was after last week's episode that she kind of got into cahoots, obviously with White Rose, but I was seeing like bigger picture wise, like I said, maybe now, or maybe since the beginning, she was just someone there that, like, you know, was meant to be involved in this. I mean, obviously she and Elliot grew up together, but you know what I mean? Because White Rose did mention, like, oh, like, you know, like, your parents were destined to die for this, and blah, 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 and, like, this is all a plan, and, like, you were always here for some reason, like, I don't understand it, but, like, you know, White Rose tried to explain to Angela, like, you know, this is all, I guess, predestined, so to speak, but Angela's kind of like, and then she's always, like, flip-floppy, you know, because she was like, I'm going to tell the cops, and, like, I'm going to confess and everything, I'm going to take the blame, but then again, it's like, what is truly happening? Who are the cops? And I said, maybe Dom's the only good cop, you know, because I said, what if, like, somehow they infiltrate the FBI or something? I mean, it seems hard to believe because Price was mentioning how the government FBI would kind of take over Evil Corp and how White Rose's plan wouldn't go through, but then again, you never know. You really don't know. But the after credit scenes is what leads us to believe that there is going to be much more. You can never run away from these people. And, like, I'm pretty sure it was Darlene who said it, or someone to Darlene, I don't know, but they're like, you'll never win against these people, and blah, 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 like, no matter what we do. I'm pretty sure Angela said that, sorry. We see this Cadillac, I'm pretty sure it's a Cadillac. It's in this parking lot and stuff, and we see this Fry's, kind of like, I assume it's a grocery store, you know. I want to say Kroger's, like if you're in Florida, or like H-E-B down here in Texas and stuff, but basically like some kind of grocery store. And we see Malala and Jack Black, and they're just talking, and, you know, they're like, oh, you know, like, we can go back or whatever and stuff, and, you know, Jack Black is like, you know, like, I don't want to discuss this, like, just shut up and stuff, like, change the subject. And then she's like, you know what, like, I miss my family and everything. She's like, I don't want to live here. And she's like, I hate your friend and stuff. And he's like, you know, like, eventually you're going to get your own place. Like, the apartments there are cheap and stuff. And then, like, they should just be thankful for the job. Like, their friend got them the job. And, you know, she says that there's a potential to undo what they did with the 5-9 hack and stuff. And then when she's like, you know what, she's like, just look at what I found. Leon shows up, and he says, do you have the time? Now, obviously, Leon told Elliot in a previous episode, when he killed those people who tried to attack him, he's like, tell White Rose I did you good. Now, when Leon asks, do you have the time? That is obviously referencing White Rose. So, what's in store for our two little runaways? We don't really know, but Dom did say that Romero's death kind of sparked everyone to go crazy and, like, run and be like, oh my god, like, you know, we're gonna get attacked, we're gonna get killed, like, we're being hunted, and, like, you know, Dark Army's cleaning a house, and somehow Leon found them, but in reality it wasn't Leon, it was probably White Rose, or maybe White Rose in the Dark Army. But if Malala has a plan to undo everything, do we really think White Rose is going to let that happen? I really don't think so. Do I think they're going to be killed? There's a possibility one of them could get killed. Maybe both. Feel they may come into questioning. But with Angela, she is very flip-floppy. She is very wishy-washy, I think is the term. But it's hard to say. It's hard to say. And with Joanna giving her new boyfriend those plans and everything like this, something's obviously gonna happen season 3, and again, season 3 is scheduled for 2017. I do hope it's earlier in the summer, just so I don't truly get, like, you know, conflicted with time and trying to do my homework so late at night after watching and doing these recaps. But I just know it's gonna be a little bit crazy. There is a bigger picture here. That little web theory that I have all coming back to Elliot was true, but then in the senses, does it come back to Elliot or Mr. Robot? Since they are the same people, and it's just crazy to see what's going to happen, and if the FBI is still going to be involved in the next couple of seasons, who's going to get arrested, who's going to do this, because obviously Elliot turned himself in, but, you know, it's hard to say, like, what will be the outcome. Is there an outcome? Is this all just in Elliot's head? Like, it'd be such a twist if, like, somehow he was a kid and his father is telling him this, and, like, it just dooms back to him as a kid, and, like, this is the plan that we're going to do when we grow up. Like, you know, like, what if that all never happened, but, like, that was, like, a prediction? I don't know. It's weird, but, again, congratulations to Rami Malek for winning his Emmy and stuff like this, and hopefully Mr. Robot can win some kind of award, because they're long overdue for an award, and I feel like they're just being snubbed. Like, they use them for ratings because they know we're going to be watching. But for Jeremy Holm and all the other actors and actresses and cast of Mr. Robot, it was a good season. And unfortunately, Cisco is no more, like they say. I mean, he may, like, pop up and whatever. But everything, again, will be linked down below, and I did get one of these things. And if you're always wondering how I get stuff sent to me, because I know people ask me, it's just because, like, I tweet a lot about the show, like, on Facebook or Instagram, sometimes, like, commenting and stuff. So if you are wondering how I get, like, the shirts and everything sent to me, I mean, you just gotta be involved, I guess, is what to say. But, Season 3 is scheduled for 2017. Congratulations to Rami Malek for winning his Emmy. I was like, he deserves a good for winning that. But anywho, leave your comments down below. Leave theories and stuff like this. What do you think is in store for Season 3? Who do you think will be alive by then? Who do you think is going to be killed? And obviously that closes this chapter of Mr. Robot for us. So everything I had written for all these seasons 1 and 2, is crazy. And I just look over it, and I know I'm going to have to rewatch Season 1 and 2 again to be like, oh, like, I'm thinking this now. Because I feel like every time you watch Mr. Robot, like, there's just, like, something that pops up that you kind of missed or whatever, and you're just like... And I know there's probably some Easter eggs that we missed that they pieced for us together, but... I do know Hacking Robot was last week. There was no Hacking Robot this week. Like, I don't know, because Falling Water is on. I don't know, it looks interesting. I'm probably not going to watch it, but, again, Matt Quayle did win his Emmy. He's a composer for Mr. Robot, Scream Queens, and American Horror Story, which is why I have, like, some weird theories about Mr. Robot and stuff like this. But anywho, congratulations to Rami Malek. I want to say hi to Rami Malek. Stay safe and God bless, and hopefully Season 3 is a little bit earlier in the summer, so I don't have this conflict of times and schedules. So anywho, I want to say hi and congratulations to Rami Malek, and I'll see you guys for Season 3 or anything else that pops up Mr. Robot. But again, everything linked down below, so hi Rami Malek.